Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. All right, let's dive right into this explainer. You know that theoretical pre-deployment plan we put together in our last lesson? Well, today, we're going to transform that into active, live monitoring. We're talking real-time, pulse checking, alert firing, observability, so you don't wake up to a server that's completely on fire. We're essentially running a metaphorical fire drill today to build up your operational readiness. Here's how we're going to do it. We'll start by taking our checklist to reality, prep our test environment, and then implement 3 core monitoring checks. After that, we'll write up some troubleshooting runbooks, simulate and validate our setup, and finally, bring it all together for the final demo. Okay, Section 1, Checklist to Reality, Theory versus Practice. There is a massive difference between theory and practice here. In theory, deployment is super calm. You're a relaxed developer, you've got this neat little paper checklist, maybe you're sipping some coffee in the sunshine. But in practice, it's 3 a.m., alarms are blaring, and you desperately need live observability. We are taking those static what-if scenarios and turning them into measurable what is happening right now data points to literally save your sanity. Moving on to Section 2, prepping the test environment and gathering your toolkit. Before we can trigger any of those alarms, we've got to have the right gear. First up, the Solana tool suite. And hey, golden rule here, always use a local validator or devnet for your tests. Friends do not let friends test in mainnet. We're also bringing in Prometheus to grab our metrics, Grafana to visualize everything, Alert Manager to route our panic signals, and some handy scripting tools like JQ and curl to help simulate our disasters. Section 3, 3 monitoring checks. This is where we map our failures to actual metrics. The crucial point here is matching those theoretical checklist items directly to failure modes we can actually measure. So if a program upgrade fails, we're going to watch program health. If our RPC node gets completely swamped by traffic, we monitor RPC latency. And if we suddenly start seeing weird, unexpected bugs, we'll track the transaction error rate. Basically, every single failure mode needs its own dedicated watchdog. To actually get those numbers, we use what's called a Prometheus scrape job. Think of it as a scheduled process that fetches metrics from a target endpoint. It's exactly like a heart rate monitor hooked up to a patient. We configure this job on our local RPC, basically telling Prometheus to constantly check the heartbeat of our program and log that data. Once we have that pulse, we need to set some strict mathematical boundaries. Take 500 milliseconds, for example. We might set an alert rule in Grafana that says, hey, if our 99th percentile RPC latency hangs out above this 500 millisecond mark for 10 minutes straight, well, something is fundamentally broken. Or we might look at a much tighter threshold, like just 0.5%. We could trigger a high severity alert if the program account rejection rate creeps above this tiny little margin over just 5 minutes. I know it seems incredibly small, but in a high throughput environment like Solana, that is a massive red flag. When those lines get crossed, Alert Manager is the thing that wakes us up. All right, Section 4, Troubleshooting Runbooks, creating actionable step-by-step guides. Listen, setting the alarm is honestly only half the battle. A runbook is your step-by-step troubleshooting procedure designed for someone to follow so they can fix an active event. It is literally your absolute best friend during a 3 a.m. pager panic, mostly because it does the critical thinking for you when your brain is totally foggy. And by the way, practicing these core site reliability engineering principles, that's something we focus heavily on in our learning programs at Forge College. A solid runbook follows a very specific anatomy. You start with prerequisites, like do you even have access to the logs? Next, stepwise commands and queries. No guessing here, just straight copy-pastable commands. Then, expected outputs. If things don't match up, you move to step 4, escalation, as in, who do you wake up next? And finally, a clear backout plan, like hitting the undo button and executing a rollback if an upgrade completely tanks. Section 5, simulate and validate. Time to run the fire drill. We've got the alarms, we've got the instructions. Now it's time to light a tiny, controlled fire. We can do this safely in a few ways. We can deploy a bad program stub to fake an upgrade failure. We can introduce an artificial RPC delay using some network shaping tools. Or we can just flood the network with malformed transactions. We specifically script these tests to intentionally push our error rates above those thresholds just so we can watch how our system reacts. During these simulations, we're looking for a very specific chain reaction to play out. First, we need to see the metric spikes in Prometheus. Second, the Grafana alert has to fire. Third, Alert Manager needs to route it correctly, meaning it actually pings the right Slack or Discord channel. And fourth, the responder uses the runbook to successfully resolve the issue. If any single link in that chain breaks down, you stop, you fix it, and you iterate.
There's a golden rule for this kind of checkpoint verification. Prefer observable, measurable signals over vague symptoms. We absolutely do not want a useless alert that just says, "Hey, users are complaining the app feels slow." No way. We want an alert that says P99 RPC latency crossed 500 milliseconds over a 10-minute window. That's measurable, and most importantly, you can actually take action on it.
Finally, Section 6, the final demo. Getting ready for your capstone. For your final demo, you're going to compile everything we've built. We're talking baseline metric queries, configured alert rules, your actionable runbook markdown files, actual screenshots of alerts firing during your simulations, and notes from peer verifications where a teammate successfully followed your runbook completely blind. You'll gather all these artifacts to prove that you've moved past just theoretical coverage and you've achieved real, battle-tested operational readiness. So, as you put the finishing touches on your monitoring plan, I want you to ask yourself this ultimate question. Is your infrastructure truly ready to survive contact with real users? If you've built these alerts and you've actually practiced these runbooks, you won't be guessing anymore. You'll know for sure. If you want to explore more Web3 concepts, dive deeper into infrastructure, and complete your developer journey, be sure to visit forge.college. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.